Welcome to the channel. My name is Dr. Jose Quesada. I'm a leadership specialist and Marine Corps veteran. And today I'm going to teach you how to master something that every great leader in history has been able to master: introspection. By the end of this episode, you're going to have everything that you need to become the best version of yourself. Stick around. So let's begin by defining introspection. Introspection is just simple self-reflection. It's looking within, not blaming others, not making excuses. And the reason why that's important is because most people spend their lives blaming others. It's the teacher's fault. It's the system. It's my parents. It's society. That's not what leaders do. Leaders look inward first. So today I'm going to talk to you about the most powerful tool for growth, discipline, leadership, and success. But before we get into it, I think it's very important for us to understand why understanding introspection is critical to every person, not just in America, but around the world. First of all, when it comes to America in general, we are living in the most stressed society, most anxious society in the history of our country. We have over 50 million anxiety attacks per year. We have tremendous amounts of stress-related illnesses that are happening on a daily basis. We have prescription medication and self-medication at all-time highs. And when you compare us to other countries, America is the most stressed country in the world. Now, I want to be clear. Introspection is not self-hate. It's not beating yourself up. It's not shame. It's not weakness. Introspection is self-awareness with courage, and it starts with a simple look in the mirror. So let me ask you a question that's going to be a lot deeper than what it seems to be in the surface. Every morning when each and every one of you get up in the morning, we all go to the bathroom and we look in the mirror. Now, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Now, I want you to think about that question. What do you see? Do you see a simple reflection of yourself, either brushing your teeth, shaving your face, or combing your hair? Or do you see yourself for who you really are, as an imperfect person, as a person that is searching for greatness? The reason I ask that question is because this leads to something that I call the rhetorical mask theory. So let me explain to you what the rhetorical mask theory is and why we all need to be familiar with it. So let's start with the example of the student. Every day, parents get their kids up from bed, they go to the bathroom, and they start getting ready. Once that student is done and they leave the bathroom, they're going to see their parents. Right before they see their parents, they put on a rhetorical mask. That mask is meant to please the parents because parents have expectations. Parents have demands. And believe it or not, every son and daughter wants to meet those expectations. They want to meet those demands. After that son or daughter is done with the parents, they head to the bus. And when they get to the bus, they have to put on another rhetorical mask because the student cannot behave the same way in front of their friends as they do with their parents. So that's mask number 2. Now, after the bus ride and when they get to school, they have to meet their teachers, right? And right before they meet their teachers, they put on another rhetorical mask. That's mask number 3. And that next mask is because teachers have different expectations. They have different demands. And students cannot act the same way with the teachers as they do with their friends. And then throughout the day, the students are putting masks on and taking them off. Before you know it, they don't even know who they are as a person. And that creates anxiety and distress because the student will spend all day, all week, all year trying to determine who they really are as a person. Now, I want you to think about the type of stress that a teenager feels by replacing these masks throughout the day. And unfortunately, what happens is that a lot of these students don't even know who they really are because they're so busy switching from mask to mask that they never really find out the way they're supposed to be. The same can be said for anybody in life. So the question that you have to ask yourself is, how many masks are you wearing? And if you are wearing a mask, why are you wearing it? People should know you for who you are. So for the young students that are seeing this, this is my message to you. Be yourself. Because if you're not, you're never going to be able to define who you're supposed to be in life. And this is the advice that I have for those that are a little bit older, like parents or maybe spouses. Be yourself. Because if you're not, you're going to be pretending to be somebody that you're not with your partner, with your bosses, with your spouses, and all that's going to lead to is anxiety and stress. So I think it's very important for all of us to look at our true reflection every morning. See yourself for who you really are. Somebody who's imperfect, but looking for perfection. Don't just stand in front of the mirror and do nothing. Take that opportunity to make yourself better. Look, I'm going to tell you the truth that nobody wants to hear. If the same problems persist in your life, you're the common denominator. And that's not an insult, that's empowering. Because if you're the variable, you also have the power to change. And I know a lot of you are listening to this and saying, well, that's easy to do. That's all it takes to make myself better. It's not easy to do. As a matter of fact, it's uncomfortable. And that's because introspection requires accountability, it requires humility, emotional discipline. And it's easier to blame, it's easier to complain, and it's definitely easier to point fingers. It's about asking yourself the hard questions. What role did I play in that outcome? What could I have done better, even though I wasn't in the wrong? Why did I react that way? What pattern keeps repeating in my life? We have to be able to ask ourselves the uncomfortable questions because comfort is the enemy of growth. Every high performer in history does an after actions report, and that's what each and every one of us have to do every day. And they don't say, I did my best and nothing has to change. What they do is ask themselves, what went wrong? What went right? What must improve next time? But even more important than all of those questions, one of the main things that each and every one of us has to do every day is self complementation. And that's because complimenting ourselves is critical to our success. And I'm going to give you an example of that. So let's say you have 10 goals throughout the day and you fail in all 10 of those goals. And at the end of the day, you go home and you do some self reflection. Just by engaging in the act of self reflection and recognizing that you failed, you are winning. And the reason you are winning is because you are engaging in self reflection to ensure that these 10 failures do not repeat themselves. I want to draw a hard line for you when it comes to excuses versus introspection. Excuses protect your ego, introspection builds your future. And you know what excuses sound like? That's just how I am. I was tired. They made me angry. I didn't have a choice. Let me tell you what introspection and accountability sound like. I allowed myself to lose discipline. I reacted emotionally without thinking. I need to improve my preparation. And I failed to meet the standard. Because the standard that each and every one of us has to have for ourselves has to be extremely high. Because if we don't, we're going to be fossilized in mediocrity. Leaders don't say I had no choice. They say I need to do better. I will do better. And the way that we do better is by recognizing fact. Only 25 to 30% of each and every one of us is genetically predetermined. What does that mean for us? That means that we get to decide who we become in life. And the way that we do that is through our actions and the decisions that we make every day. And remember, these decisions have to have ferocity to them. You set your goals and you pursue them. Now, I understand that a lot of us don't learn without doing. So I want to do a practical exercise for everybody that's watching this. And it's simple, but very powerful. I want you to think about a recent failure, mistake, or conflict. And I don't want you to say it out loud because this is going to be personal. Now I'm going to ask you a set of questions to ask yourself, but I want you to take about 10 seconds to answer them in your head. So let me give you about 5 seconds to think about the situation before I ask you the question. The first question I want you to ask yourself is, what was my role in this situation? The second question is, what decision did I make that contributed to the outcome of the situation? The third question is, what emotion controlled me? Was it anger? Was it ego? Was it laziness? Or was it something else? And the fourth question is, what standard did I fail to meet? And now I want you to think about how different the outcome would have been if you wouldn't have given any excuses, if you wouldn't have blamed anybody, and you just would have been truthful to yourself. By doing these types of cognitive drills, this is how discipline is built. And remember, followers wait to be corrected. Leaders correct themselves through discipline and action. If you want respect, trust, responsibility, and leadership opportunities, you must be able to self correct before somebody else corrects you. So now that we've spoken about introspection in detail, let's talk about how to do it. So, the first great way to do introspection is meditation. And this can be in complete silence or it can be listening to music that puts you in the right emotional state. You have to put yourself in a position where you can clearly utilize emotional intelligence to logically assess your actions and inactions. The second way you can do introspection is through prayer. We all need somebody to talk to, somebody that doesn't judge us, and just listens to us. Somebody that understands our desires and our emotions. So whoever your God is, trust that he is listening to you and express yourself in the most intimate and spiritual way possible. And I'm going to give you the third way, but there are endless ways for you to engage in introspection. The third way to do introspection is through written reflection. And that's because writing forces clarity. Thinking alone lets you escape and focus. But every entry has to end with a corrective action. And the reason why written reflection works so effectively, it's because it's a lot harder for us to lie to ourselves on paper. So I want to close this episode by telling you guys something that is very important. The strongest people that I know are not the loudest. They are the most self-aware. Introspection is how you build discipline. You control emotion. You improve performance. You become reliable. You become respected. So every night before you go to sleep, I want you to do something. I want you to self-reflect. Remember, the only thing that we do before we go to sleep is just lay there for a couple of minutes and then eventually fall asleep. Why not take that opportunity to reflect on the day and the days to come and how we can become better as people, as leaders, as sons, as daughters, as bosses, and make everybody around us better through our actions. And when you're doing that introspection late at night, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. Did I meet the standard today? Where did I fall short? How do I improve tomorrow? If you can do that consistently, I promise you, your life will change. Because growth doesn't start with blaming the world. It starts by you looking in the mirror. I look forward to more discourse. I'll see you next time.